Yes, ladies and gentlemen, here I am, live and in person. You guessed it. You guessed it, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, the F-World Icon, here to welcome you back for another exciting edition of the F-World Headquarters Podcast. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Oh, you guys are too much. Too much. Thank you very much. You know, at the start of the show, I wanted to acknowledge something, a couple things actually. Over the last couple days, I have had a lack of interest nor involvement with social media, as there's been a lot of negativity lately, even more so than normal, which is unfortunate. But also, there's no need for so much hatred in the world and hating on everyone and everything and whatnot. So that being said, I choose not to, indulge in spreading negativity and making people feel negative and all that stuff. I prefer to entertain, keep things lighthearted, inspire, and live by example. That is what I'm going to do. So I just wanted to say this show's a little different, as not only am I recording a regular scheduled show for here Saturday with a chock full of show that has several parts to it, so we'll enjoy that. But also the other part of it is that we're going. I'm doing a watch along right now of the WWE Money in the Bank, which is a special, as they call it now, PLE event, premium live event, replacing pay-per-view. They're kicking things off with the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, which, historically speaking, whenever this is done, when they kick off with a ladder match, if they're going to cash in the case in the same night, traditionally they'll start with whatever that ladder match is. So the men are kicking this off. There's also a female version of the same match later. So in this match, this is, a pop culture thing. A lot of the times people ask me, being someone who's in pro wrestling, how come we don't get a lot of pro wrestling talk? Because we have all kinds of things to chat about. But don't make any mistake, I don't forget my roots, I don't forget where I came from, I don't forget my first dream that I aspired and successfully obtained. So there's that. So in this match, I'm just going to tell you some people who were involved here. And one of them here on YouTube you'll know all too well. So the people involved here are Shinsuke Nakamura, Damian Priest, who represents Judgment Day, Ricochet, who's a very high-flying individual. The criminally underused Santos Escobar, who's part of the now LWO, along with Rey Mysterio and so forth, which I gotta tell you, his outfit here is very interesting stuff. Comes from Lucha Libre style. Pete Dunne not Pete Dunne. Formerly known as Pete Dunne, now called Butch. Representing the Brawling Brutes. And by the way, this is hailing from London, England, as we speak here. So that's where this Money in the Bank is taking place. I can't necessarily speak to whether or not this is live, considering we're in the United States, across the pond from our friends over across the pond in the UK. Also involved here is LA Knight, who is he's actually been around the block a few times. He's been around the wrestling world for a little while. I've known him from TNA and so forth, and a lot of people might forget that he was instrumental. He was instrumental, I should say, in his involvement as part of the British invasion of the LW in TNA in their early days when I was watching TNA on a regular basis, as I actually at one point even considered working for them. And some of my friends who were in pro wrestling, who actually worked for the company back then, he was someone who I remember meeting in the locker room. Very nice man and whatnot. Anyway, so there's a lot of representation in this ladder match, which is interesting. Shinsuke Nakamura from Japan. Santos Escobar represents the Lucha Libre style in Mexico. Pete Dunne, no, I call him Pete Dunne, but Butch, as they're calling him here, he represents the Irish in the United Kingdom area. I forgot to mention one other person here, and of course everyone on YouTube is aware of who Logan Paul is, I'm sure. And Logan Paul is another person in this ladder match. So let me explain what this is. So basically what this match is, all these individuals are involved in this ladder match, per se, which involves a case that is held above the ring in which the person simply has to climb the ladder and retrieve the briefcase hanging above the ringside. The briefcase has a contract in which they can cash in at any point on any champion of their choice. So that is the story of what this match is. There are several people involved here. Okay. There are no traditional rules in these specific types of matches, as it's a lot of ladders being used and who knows what else. Probably one of the most dangerous matches you could find yourself in, as we're talking about gravity, and there's, as much as people want to say how fake wrestling is, there's no faking gravity. There are no safety nets. The ring is not made of springs, as people have believed. In my involvement in wrestling, I can tell you that if you actually knew what was involved in the ring, you probably would not enjoy taking what they call bumps as much as they look fun. Logan Paul is a dark horse in this match. But, all honesty, speaking from their perspective goes, he actually does very well adapting in the ring for as far as a celebrity of the pro wrestling world. I got to tell you that, and to be honest. So I'm just giving you guys some insight on what this match is that they're kicking off with. Money in the Bank is the men's ladder match. So before every single one of their pay-per-views, what we'll do is on our show, we'll go through their card and see who would win, and we'll do our prediction shows using our technology we have with Icons of the F4L. As you guys know, during our shows on Icons of the F4L, we don't have any controls over outcomes of any of our matches. Reason being is we set it to demo, may the best man win. We never know who's going to win. Well, we do that similar with the WWE matches, as we take out all the political stuff or angles or whatever, and we basically put the people involved as face value, and may the best man win. That's how we do it on our show, and then we go announce the victories. So this match, for example, both my wife has also done this because she gets entertained and she also likes the people involved here. I can tell you that when we did this, this case here, when we did this exercise, if you would, the winner of this when we did it was Shinsuke Nakamura. Maybe a dark horse for some. Shinsuke Nakamura won. I know a lot of people might not know who that is, but people who like the Japanese style of wrestling are probably aware. Of course, that's what we do because we don't have any kind of ties per se to who wins and loses, but that's ultimately how that works. So Logan Paul, who is wearing some type of blue and yellow attire, kind of looks like a giant bottle of his Prime energy drink, if you want my opinion. Very interesting attire for Logan Paul, who's in there with, several different individuals who all come from different wrestling backgrounds, some in different styles. Some are high flyers, some are power game. Damian Priest is an individual who's also criminally underrated. He's a very large individual. He's probably the tallest person involved in this match, all honesty. And also, probably as power goes, maybe one of the strongest people also in this match. Shinsuke Nakamura brings a martial art and strong style from Japan's. Pete Dunne, or Butch, brings a strong style of the United Kingdom, which they tend to be a little bit more stiff than they are in America. Logan Paul brings the celebrity aspect. LA Knight is a little bit of everything. really. So it's quite interesting in the sense of that. I'm a little interested by Pete Dunne's attire. He's wearing looks like the British flag. Is Steyer's singlet. As Nakamura is wearing some type of yellow and black bodysuit. Damian Priest, of course, who's a member of the Judgment Day faction. He is in the traditional black and purple. Very interesting attire as well for him. For the most part, nothing is really standing out as far as outfits go here. It's pretty much things we've seen. But in all honesty, you can't take away the fact, as much as you want to love or hate Logan Paul, he tries, and he does well. I think they just botched a ladder spot where they had Damian Priest, who was set up on a ladder. Logan Paul just did a frog splash, which is a high-flying type maneuver, off the apron, onto Damian Priest, onto the ladder. I think the ladder was supposed to break, which it didn't, and yeah, that's a painful type of thing, because that's steel, and as much as people want to, discredit the wrestlers and say how much things are real and fake, I can tell you, those are real ladders, folks. They may not be the strongest types of things, but they are ladders nonetheless. They have to hold a man's body with weight. The chairs that they use in wrestling are real chairs. When you take a chair shot, you go to wrestling school to learn how to do these things and not hurt yourself or others. So that's why there's wrestling schools. Anyway, let's take a break from the wrestling chat. And as I mentioned, Shinsuke Nakamura won when we did this ourselves. I think when my wife did this, I think, who won for her? I think Ricochet won for my wife when my wife ran through this. So that's interesting. Anyway, that's this thing. So on the 4th of July, which is coming up on very shortly, which is Independence Day here in America, and of course a lot of people wonder, well, since the 4th of July is a holiday, are you going to have icons of the F4L? I mean, the 4th of July is would probably be considered the biggest holiday for the F4L, since it highlights the 4 in the name. But yeah, we are definitely having an episode of we're going to be doing a show of Icons of the F4L. It is our Stars and Straps event. So some of our best United States born and raised citizens on our roster are going to be competing. Some great matchups we have, in fact. In fact, all of our titles are on the line, except for one. The only title that is not up for grabs is the current Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix title. The reason being is because the champion currently is from Liverpool, England. And of course, those of you guys who watch, oh my goodness, there's a crazy spot they did in wrestling, which again, it hurt them a lot more than it probably should ever have. Very painful match. These are dangerous matches as I break into commenting on such things. A lot of high spots that are not necessary, and and it will shorten your career in wrestling. I'll tell you that too. They look cool, and years down the line, you may very much regret doing such moves as 460 splashes off the ropes into a person's body on a ladder. Very bizarre moment here. Everyone all of a sudden is just in the ring and just bizarre. This is a bizarre spot right here. None of it makes any sense. Anywho, back to the show here. But anyway, Icons of the F4L will be taking place on the 4th of July. We have an epic show. Everyone who is an American-born citizen will be taking place. We do have a match that is going to be set as number one contenders. Well, originally we were supposed to have the Lawrence brothers challenge the Brooks Brothers Incorporated, your Dream Masters Universal Tag Team Champions, out of North Carolina. However, unfortunately, the issue there is, you have to watch the show. Unfortunately, cards always subject to change, folks. Remember that. But we have a great lineup, great card. All of our titles are on the line with the exception of the Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix Championship. However, I can tell you this. We're going to have two very interesting matches. We're going to have a number one contenders match to find out who, after the former champion, Leo the Bull Curtis, gets his rematch, who will be the next contender in line for the Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix Championship by two amazingly talented and gifted United States-born citizens and two of the toughest people on the planet when it comes to rising stars in open MMA, and that, of course, being Anthony the Hunter Adele taking on, for the first time ever, Grayson the Super Doc Russell. And traditionally speaking, they're not living very far away. Georgia and Florida are not very far away in the United States, yet they're going to be competing for the chance at becoming the Dream Masters BA MMA Grand Prix champion one-on-one. Again, that will take place probably on the, after the rematch on the 14th of June, as Noah the Nightmare will be defending against the former champion, which is Leo the Bull Curtis. So that should be interesting. And anyone who watches our shows knows how dominant both individuals are and how epic that will be. And anyone who watches our show also knows how awesome it's going to be to have a match between the Hunter Anthony Adele and the Super Duck Grayson Russell. That'll be a fantastic open MMA. That is under MMA rules, by the way, so it should be exciting. And it is inside the cage, of course. Our main event will be also as entertaining as we have. They have the Money in the Bank. It was so interesting how they have a Money in the Bank pay-per-view right now. We have what's called a Case of Fate, which is kind of a similar idea, where instead of the case being hung above the ring for a title shot, we call it a Case of Fate because ultimately that case will define really what will transpire for your career. It can add to it can enter into a title match, or if you lose, it can be a kind of a way of learning. Are you ready for the championship? On our show, anyone who's watched our shows with the Case of Fate, probably one of the most famous versions of this taking place was Hall of Famer Robert Englund, Freddy Krueger, for those people who don't know. Cashed in on Jax Teller of the Sons of Anarchy after a grueling match between Jax and his longtime rival Daryl Dixon, another Hall of Famer, by the way. It was Robert Englund of the Horror Connection who cashed the Case of Fate in for the BA title back then on the winner of the match after the fact. And for the first time ever, Jax Teller was able to defeat his old nemesis in what was supposed to be their last encounter. And unfortunately, Jax Teller, even after winning his longtime rival, he did win. Unfortunately, Robert Englund, the master of nightmares himself, cashed the Case of Fate in to become the Dream Masters BA champion right after Jax Teller won for the first time against his longtime rival. So, a very interesting occasion. There's a lot of action going on in this match on the TV. They got Nakamura and Santos Escobar on top of the ladders right now. Again, interesting attire by, and Logan Paul and Ricochet just did a springboard onto the ladders out of nowhere. I'm believing the spot that they're going to go with is someone's going to push the ladders over because there's 4 people on the ladders right now, and technically all you would have to do is push the ladders over. And it looks like maybe LA Knight might have that idea. And there goes one ladder. These are all similar spots. We've seen these almost in every single Money in the Bank or ladder match in general. Very similar spots, but all, dangerous to me nonetheless. So Logan Paul and Ricochet on top of the ladders right now, for example, and LA Knight is trying to, there goes the ladder, push the ladder over, which he did. Logan Paul stopped it from falling all the way over. These guys are doing something crazy and someone's going to get hurt. Yep, they did. They went for a spot that they both botched, and they fixed it to go through 2 tables that were set up outside the ring. I don't think I'm supposed to be impressed by the fact that they almost botched the spot, but I got to give them respect. I mean, they were about to fall. They knew they did it wrong, so they fixed it before they went ahead and did the spot, which makes it unbelievable, which is not what you want in wrestling. You want to make it look as real as possible. And they had they're having a replay of the botched move. That's awful. Awful camera work by them. But anyway, back to our show. But our show should be epic, and it's going to be a great thing. And our main event, speaking of our Case of Fate, a little while ago, one of our newer stars, Big E, Elijah Furton, who did very well in his open MMA, in his becoming part of our MMA event this year, one of our newest stars, as joined our roster, specifically for that tournament, has really found a home on Icons of the F4L and a fan base. He won the Case of Fate. By the way, Pete Dunne, or Butch, is on top of the ladder, and so is Damian Priest now, who's trying to get the ladder, and Pete Dunne, who's known for breaking people's finger. You're going to go with a choke slam spot. There it is. Damian Priest just choke slammed Butch off the top of the ladder, and who bounced off the ladder in the ring. Damian Priest just got thrown out of the ring thanks to LA Knight. Of course, he doesn't know that there's Santos Escobar. No, LA Knight, they're trying to push. Santos is gone. There's Shinsuke Nakamura. No, they're really pushing for LA Knight, folks. Looks like they're going to try to give it to him. He's climbing the ladder. This is craziness. LA Knight, who is super over and was about to win, except for the guy he just threw out of the ring, Damian Priest, who's up there with him. Oh, man. This is a crazy spot right here. So Damian Priest is going to go for he did a droplex, that we call. He also botched it. I think he was supposed to stay on top of the ladder, but he fell off it himself. So now Damian Priest is climbing the ladder. I want to point out Finn Balor is wrestling Seth Rollins, and Damian Priest, by the way, wins their ladder match. Yes, you heard that, folks. Damian Priest wins Money in the Bank, and also Seth Rollins is scheduled to face another member of the Judgment Day later on tonight, which is Finn Balor. Damian Priest, who's just won the case, can cash in. Question being is if Finn Balor is able to defeat Seth Rollins, or vice versa. Is he going to cash in on his friend Finn Balor and member of his group? Interesting stuff. Drama, folks. And you guys thought that wrestling is something else. It's a male soap opera, folks. Enjoy. All right. Anyway, our show's epic, and I can't say enough about our amazing roster. In fact, I've said time and time again, as far as the Icons go, that we have the best roster, and I'm going to prove this. And according to the feedback we've been getting and the new surgence of how many people are now enjoying our shows, I gotta say it's kind of nice to see that people are catching on to these amazing stars. By the way, I don't know why I never say this on the shows when I'm recording them, or when I do the shows. But yeah, please, if you listen to that show, if you watch Icons of the F4L, even if it's just for a few minutes, please like it and subscribe if you can, so you don't miss the action. Everyone's going to have their favorites, and we have a very diverse roster that comes from all over the place in all different forms. We have the Universal side of things, we have the BA MMA side of things, and we have talented people on both entities. Same thing goes for our Dream Warriors, who are just as tough, just as dangerous, and epic. And I guess congratulations to Damian Priest for winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. And also, later on, I don't know if we'll be doing the show still by then, but we'll follow up tomorrow on our show to let you guys know if he cashes in or not. We'll see. So anywho, back to this show. So here we are. All right, so let's do some reviews, shall we? Take it away, Earl. All right, here we are. We're back. All right, so who's excited for some film reviews? Because I feel like I don't get a lot. I don't have an opportunity, or I should be doing a lot more for reviews on film as much as I've seen. You know, for those people who've been following, it's something I've been noticing a lot lately is the amount of emphasis on films that are getting such praise, but then I myself will actually see them and I'm kind of left out of what the inside joke is. Like, I'm missing what is so epic about whatever it is that they are selling us on, I guess is the best way to put it. So we simply kind of don't, really think. We usually, a lot of times people will, and I used to see this working at the video store that I used to work at way back in the day, a place called Blockbuster. Remember we used to go, rent videos from Blockbuster? Well, I was that for a long time until it closed. But, as a whole, what I got to learn and what I took away from it is whenever the Oscars come around, there'll be some fantastic films out there, but if the Oscars don't recommend it, or if they win the Oscar, that's when they'll go see the movie. But, prior to that, they really had no interest in this film. Otherwise, they probably would have already seen it. I've seen it where, even working in the film world, in the film wrestling world, and the film in the cinema side of things, whenever a film comes out and it's nominated for an Oscar, they'll usually re-release the films that are nominated because they want to make sure people get to see these films. Also, another way to kind of boost up the amounts of revenue from the films that they're suggesting and bringing in. So, there's that. But, there have been films, as I've mentioned before here, that we've, I myself have done reviews on, like Barbarian, for example, comes to mind, where everyone in the horror world loved the movie, raved about it, how wonderful of a horror movie it was, how cutting edge it was. And my wife and I, who don't often agree with everything in wrestling or television or anything else, we agree that neither one of us enjoyed this film. So interesting. Actually, what's interesting here is they're now going into the women's tag team title match that they're having on here. By the way, I can tell you that when we did this, yes, believe it or not, no surprise, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey did retain. So, just so people know, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, 2/4 of the UFC horsewomen, as they used to call them, are now a tag team in the WWE, which I'm going to be honest with you guys, as someone who enjoys real combat sports as much as I enjoy wrestling, these two women here are legitimately the two of the toughest women in the entire locker room. Maybe two of the toughest people in general in the locker room. I actually firmly believe that Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler could probably give most of the men in the roster a hard time if they wanted to. But what I don't understand is why the champion... These are my pet peeves with other people who do shows. Why the champions come out first and the challengers come out after the fact. That annoys me. I don't like that. That is annoying. But anyway, they're defending against Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez. I gotta say, I did enjoy Raquel Gonzalez Rodriguez way back in the day. Sorry, I messed up her fake name. And she is, she's a tough girl, and she should, be able to hang in there. Liv Morgan's tiny, and I know that people like her. And but listen, we're talking about two women who are in the UFC, two women who competed in combat sports, not scripted. These women here are trained wrestlers, and I'd like to see what Raquel Gonzalez Rodriguez did before pro wrestling. Liv Morgan, they want to go with these gimmicks that she's kind of lost her mind, which they've done this gimmick way too many times. She lost her mind because she defeated Ronda Rousey. Because Ronda put her over and gave her the title. There are a lot of people who don't like Ronda Rousey in pro wrestling, and I think the understanding there is the fact that, it's really not Ronda's fault as much as it is how they present her in the show. In the WWE, they wanted Ronda to come out smiling and dancing and all that things. And here's the thing: anyone who is familiar with Ronda Rousey's work in the UFC knows that Ronda Rousey didn't go to the ring and dance and smile at the fans and take pictures. That's not who Ronda Rousey is. Let's talk about who Ronda Rousey is. Ronda Rousey is a former Olympian for judo and a medalist, for that matter, for the United States of America. She is also, in addition to that, the first woman inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and may also be the reason why there is a UFC women's division, where before Ronda Rousey was a thing, the creator of UFC had always said that women should never compete in the UFC, and Ronda Rousey is the woman who opened the door for that. Shayna Baszler, who is just as nightmarish, who is as much as a submission and combat specialist as Ronda, is in fact just as devastating and just as fierceful and forceful. A lot of people don't like Shayna Baszler because she, lacks that of someone who wants to wave at the crowd. I honestly think that Shayna Baszler is very entertaining and does a very good job at playing in the heel. Ronda Rousey also plays a good heel both in real life and on the show. I think both women are legitimately two of the toughest women on the planet. And a lot of people, I've even heard a lot of wrestling marks on YouTube and everywhere else commenting about how they hate Ronda Rousey. She needs to get out of wrestling and all these other things. But listen, YouTube nobody, mom's basement dweller, here's what I got to say to them. If you were to say those magic words, whether you have the device by Amazon or you have another device, and you were to ask and Google their names, I do dare you, Google their names and then Google your own. And because I can tell you this exercise I've done. If I was to ask the home, we'll say, facts about Ronda Rousey, they'll pop out all kinds of things. Her judo background, her Olympic accolades, her UFC prowess, her Hall of Fame status, her WWE role right now. Then I ask you to put your own name, ask it your name. And if they don't come up with anything, because I've asked them about you specifically, they have nothing comes back. They have no knowledge of who you are. You are a nobody. So until you've actually done something that is relevant enough to offer an opinion of why Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler don't belong in wrestling, or why they're not as good as these women you guys like so much, maybe before you start saying how, they don't belong here, all these other things, you should take a deep dive and see what relevancy you have to give such an analysis. Have you ever competed in any combat sports? Looking at some of these people who comment, it doesn't look like it. I've competed in combat sports for numerous years, and I respect combat sports because I know with the training in the amount of risk that's involved. I've also gotten into the pro wrestling world. So there's that. And I hear a lot of people who talk a lot of smack about Ronda Rousey, who doesn't belong in the wrestling world. But guess what? Ronda Rousey sells tickets. Ronda Rousey has made a name for herself on her own name in and out of the pro wrestling world. Ronda Rousey's been in film, along with the rest of the Expendables. Yeah, take that into account. Go ahead and Google her name. See what comes up. Google your own name. If nothing comes back for you, then you probably don't have any reason or any relevancy to comment about your opinions on what Ronda Rousey should or should not be a part of. Shayna Baszler, again, very criminally underrated, and a very probably just as dangerous as Ronda Rousey, maybe even more so. And of course, they're friends. And I got to say, as someone who was working not long ago behind the scenes, and someone who was so wanting them to work together, because I always believed they would be a great tag team in all this world of all these women who supposedly, are supposed to be a team. What better team to have than two of the most dangerous women on the planet teaming up as one? I honestly think that there is no legitimately any woman two teams that should be able to compete. And the amount of the fact of the matter is, Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler have on multiple occasions tried to make stars of these other people who people seem to like more. Don't know why that is. Maybe because they like the way they look. This is pro wrestling. I don't watch pro wrestling to see the nice looking girls. I watch pro wrestling for action. I didn't become a wrestling fan because I want to see someone dance around and whatever else. I want to see action. That's when I became a wrestling fan. When I went to wrestling school, I trained alongside of both men and women. All kinds of shapes, sizes, ages, you name it. They all had a passion for the business. In all honesty, I have respect for the women's division just as much as I have respect for the men's division. And I don't want people to... Oh, that's the end of that match. Thanks for coming. Or it should be over. Dumb. This is just a dumb thing. So Shayna Baszler had an arm bar on Liv Morgan, and Ronda Rousey had an ankle lock on Liv Morgan. And honestly, that would have been a tap-out situation if that was legit. And then, of course, Raquel Gonzalez, who is the tallest woman in this match. Again, I think she is criminally underrated. I think Raquel could do something very impressive if they made her a heel instead of the smiley girl that she was. But I'm not, involved in that division or whatever else. But I can tell you this, that when it comes to tough, I don't think there's any woman in the locker room who's going to compete with that, or Ronda Rousey or Shayna Baszler. And I'll go on record by saying that. Any one of your heroes can go any point, and I'm sure that either one of the ladies would love to humble them. So the next time people want to talk about, this nonsense about people saying and doing stupid things and offering your opinions on whether these UFC women should be involved in wrestling, take a look at yourself in a mirror and go with the Google approach of things. Ronda Rousey, Shayna Baszler are two women you can Google, and you'll get all kinds of various different things to come back to you. If you Google yourself, nothing will come back except for maybe a YouTube channel if you're lucky. Even that is slim to none. I think Shayna Baszler just turned on Ronda Rousey, by the way. Yeah, looks like Shayna Baszler has turned on Ronda Rousey, which is what they're going with now. Yeah. Wow. Uh-oh. So Shayna Baszler just turned on Ronda Rousey during this match, just choked her out. And now the other two women are trying to figure out what to do to follow up on Ronda Rousey, who's already been choked out by her longtime friend, Shayna Baszler, as I just went ahead and spit all that. Well, let's face it, a real selling point would be Baszler and Ronda Rousey, honestly, and that's another match that I think would be fantastic. Oh, give me a break. So, for those fans who like to hate on Ronda Rousey, you'll be happy to know that Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez have won the tag team titles from Baszler and Rousey. Of course, it wasn't until Baszler choked out Rousey beforehand, walked away on her, and Rousey and Baszler just made Raquel and Liv legitimate. That's what you just did. But I gotta tell you also, the money thing here is Baszler and Rousey as a match is also something that I would be behind, is something that I would also see. As much as they are great as a team, the matchup between the two would be just as entertaining, in all honesty. So that's my opinion on that. So there's that. That's kind of them deals. Anyway, that's women wrestling right there. It was amusing. I guess also it should be said that it was kind of something apparent. Anyway, WWE. Interesting stuff. All right. Anywho, so new women's tag team champions, according to WWE, Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez, because Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler imploded as a team. Interesting stuff. Anyway, these are the days of our lives. Anywho, we're going to get ready to get to our next segment. We were doing film reviews just beforehand. I was talking to you guys about, how people have, will have all kinds of opinions. And as, working in the film world, either in the cinema world, in the video store, one of the things that was always a hot time for rentals was around the award seasons, and a lot of people would rent either the nominated ones or the ones that won, and then not pay any attention to other films. And I can tell you that, from experience and from my own prowess being in the film world, there are plenty of things that I actually enjoy that are never nominated, that are much better than everything else that I've seen. In an example recently, I just saw The Whale, which for some reason, get this, according to all the sources, Whale wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Maybe because it was too dark in nature, I'm guessing. Maybe because it didn't have that happy, fluffy ending. I don't know. But anyway, regardless, I reviewed that movie. It was very heartbreaking to watch. Very realistic for some. It really talked a lot about, I don't know if I actually did a full review on The Whale, but that movie basically speaks a lot more about the dangers of stress eating and health with of obeseness and so forth, and how tragedy sometimes can bring out those feelings that so many people suffer from this fact where they get depressed, they get anxious, and they eat. This is a real thing. This is a psychological thing. It is a type of eating disorder. There are many types of eating disorders. There are some that make you not want to eat. There are others that make you not want to. There are some that make you want to not eat anything or take in food. But there are plenty of other ones that cause you to do self-harm by overeating, if you would. Stress eating is a real thing. It's something that I gotta say, I've not really seen a lot of films tackle that subject. I think The Whale did a pretty good job with expressing what that looks like and why it's there. I'm not going to go into detail because I think people should see The Whale, which again wasn't nominated in the Oscars. The Fabelmans, however, was nominated. It didn't win, by the way. Oddly enough, no surprise. because the movie that won was Everything Everywhere All at Once, which, again, my wife and I did not enjoy as much. It was a very confusing movie, and I am one who enjoys a good thought twister. I enjoy a good, something that makes me think, granted, but it needs to have some type of formula that I can follow and understand. Movies like, for example, Shutter Island, or another example of this would be The Inception. These are things that are kind of films that are, some of them are left to interpretation, really, not so much a real thing, but an interpretation, of course. By the way, they're setting up a match right now between Matt Riddle and Gunther, which is, most people might not know as Gunther, which is Walter, rather, for world audiences. Walter is a legitimate wrestler from all around the world. He's a professional wrestler, by the way. Matt Riddle is another former UFC, MMA star, who has crossed over to the wrestling world. And Gunther, formerly known as Walter, probably one of the most powerful men in the last, I don't know how long. And should be very interesting stuff as people are responding and so forth. We are doing... I was actually getting a notification that our guest tomorrow is going to be here live tomorrow, confirming his first appearance here on the Icons his first appearance here on the M4 Headquarters podcast. We'll talk about him in a very short moment. As of right now, let's give you another film review. Hold on. Okay, so, there are a lot. I myself am more drawn to the independent and foreign type films, and actually, this is going to be a cross between not so much a film review as a film. It is a film review of sorts, but I'm going to give you an example of some fantastic film performances. But first, I think it's important for us to recognize. As much as on this show we do try to keep it as positive as possible. However, we also have to acknowledge the fact when people cross over into that icon status, the same status as a Stan Lee, Meatloaf, and others on our roster or in our world. Stan Lee in our minds lives in our hearts, minds, and souls, even though he may have left this world, his physical form. Well, we're going to do a little bit of a tribute to one of my favorite actors, a very, very talented man. So let me do this for him, and I ask you guys for a moment of silence while we tribute the late, great, always, well, we call this segment Heroes Are Remembered, but Legends Never Die. So take it away, guys. Thank you. Of course, in this sense, we're talking about the now the hero and legend that is Alan Arkin. This actor is a tremendous career over the years. Has performed in the film world for many, many years. I am aware of multiple things that this talented man has done. I've seen much of his work. He's a very talented, gifted comedic actor, but also has a gruff and rough style that is his own. We're going to talk about a little bit of it because he is a fantastic actor. Very, very. So let me tell you what I think when it comes to acting goes. Right, everyone wonders, what is it to be a great actor, right? What does it take to be a good actor, in my opinion, right? Well, here are some things that I go by when it comes to who great actors are. In my opinion, a great actor or actress is someone who can do multiple performances, give multiple deliveries, and be successful and believable in each, and be adaptable within the context of the project. And Alan Arkin, without a doubt, is that individual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off, or I'm going to give you a few of my favorite performances by him. And, one of the things that's amazing is I said earlier how my wife and I don't often agree on everything, but one of the things we do definitely agree on is that we were both very saddened to hear that Alan Arkin has left the physical world. Because he is such a... You see Alan Arkin in a film and it's like it's going to be successful. You kind of understand what you're going to get out of a performance. And, what's interesting is that Alan Arkin, for my wife and I, we like him for different roles. Some of the films I've seen with him, she hasn't seen, and so forth. Some of my favorite things that he has done, Alan Arkin, of course, first and foremost is Little Miss Sunshine. I don't know if the film would have been as successful if not for Alan Arkin, his dry humor that he brought to that performance. In all honesty, Little Miss Sunshine, if I can just talk about that film for just a minute. I'm going to talk a few of these films real quick. As this was a film that was also nominated, and it went up against a powerhouse known as The Departed, which is a cop drama set in Boston, of all places. Little Miss Sunshine, the year that it came out, actually was one of the first independent films that actually took a lot of the awards away from these big Hollywood blockbusters, which was a trend that kept on happening. And Little Miss Sunshine really, really stole the show, in my opinion. And Alan Arkin, in every scene that he is in Little Miss Sunshine, is cinematic gold. His interactions with a young Abigail Breslin, spot on, honest, gruff, believable, which is, what you want in an actor. You want a believable performance. And in Little Miss Sunshine, he might have said and done some things that are not, colorful, if you would, or considered to be politically correct today. But in all honesty, he commands a presence in this film. And when I don't want to spoil anything for A Little Miss Sunshine, even though it's been around for years, and I do recommend people see A Little Miss Sunshine if you haven't. In all honesty, the cast of Little Miss Sunshine is, bar none, probably one of the best casts that people could go to see. In all honesty, I don't think there's a single bad person casted in this film. In fact, everyone is in this film is phenomenal in their own right. Massachusetts' own Steve Carell in that film, which, a lot of people know him from The Office or The 4-Year-Old Virgin, but Steve Carell brought home this performance, did a great job there. Abigail Breslin, who this was her first real standout role outside of the Disney stuff that she did with her brother, who was already doing films here and there. But Abigail held her own against these, powerful legends and people who would go on to become recognized. Back then, I knew how awesome and how talented these people were. Greg Kinnear really put on a show in this one as the father of this patriarch of this family. At times a little bit obnoxious at times, but how many people can relate to that kind of a dad? He is legitimately the dad that everyone, once in a while, they'll have one of those kinds of dads who, the overachievers, the wonder believers, the one who wants to get all the deals made kind of a deal. And of course, I've said many times that Toni Collette is one of the greatest actresses of modern time. I love Toni Collette, and I've never seen her in a role that she has done bad in. I was not overly fond, I gotta be honest with you guys, I was not overly fond of the overrated Hereditary. I know what you horror fans are saying now. How can you not like Hereditary? Sorry, I didn't like Hereditary. It was overrated, and I've seen her do multiple other roles that were so amazing in nature. And Hereditary was not, in my opinion, a spotlight of Toni Collette's career. If I say you want to see a demonstration of a fantastic actress, watch her in United States of Tara. That is a fantastic example of the depth in which Toni Collette is criminally underrated. In this film, we really are featured and really, are forced to kind of be around the same kinds of people. And the people being that of this amazing cast. We're stuck kind of in this van, if you would, with these same groups of people. That goes to show you don't need a cast of all kinds of different people. You just need a few really good ones. Little Miss Sunshine's magic was that you had so many great ones in one time. Some of them were just kind of finding their footing. Some of them I already liked from the beginning. By the way, Gunther, aka Walter, has won. Wait a minute, what is this? Oh boy. So Gunther just won the Intercontinental He has retained his title against Matt Riddle via submission, by the way. The MMA guy tapped out to Gunther. And Drew McIntyre just returned. Just thought I'd mention that. He's a Scotsman, which he's going to get a huge pop here in the United Kingdom, which is why he's here. Gunther, who's popular all over the world, is probably also got just as much respect. And I'm almost certain that Matt Riddle probably didn't get as much love as he normally would in the United States as he did over there. I didn't listen because, again, I don't have the sound on for that because I don't need it. The last thing I want to do is hear the people. But Drew McIntyre apparently steering a hole through Gunther. Apparently this is to set up a program between the two. Apparently. And of course it's getting people to go crazy over in the United Kingdom. Sorry to interrupt my review, my little commentary on Little Miss Sunshine, which is probably one of the greatest casted films of modern time. So Gunther just got headbutted by McIntyre. Now he's going to get the kick in the face from McIntyre. Yeah. Calls that the Claymore, by the way. The kick to the face. So, yeah, as I said, this is to set up the program between Gunther and Drew McIntyre going forward. Probably SummerSlam, I'm going to guess, because that's the next one, I believe. Anywho, Little Miss Sunshine, again, the amazing cast. Alan Arkin really is the anchor to everything here. He is both villain. Well, not a villain. There's no real villains in this film. He is he acts as the commentary really for everyone. He says kind of how it is. He doesn't have any he's not apologetic for his beliefs, his views on anything. He says kind of what's on his mind. He reminds people that sometimes maybe being honest isn't necessarily what everyone wants to hear. Sometimes being honest can be rough for people, honestly. And Alan Arkin does that all over this film in his talks with his directions with Steve Carell, his director Paul Dano, another one who's in this film, who you guys probably now know from his role as the Riddler in the Batman movie. I honestly saw Paul Dano perform way before that, and he's always done an amazing job. Very criminally underrated as well. Paul Dano really enjoys, I don't know, maybe he's typecasting himself perhaps, but, oh yeah, that's right. The next one is whatever it is. The next venture, I guess you'd say, that they would all do there. I mean, the cast is phenomenal. I can't say enough about Little Miss Sunshine. I do recommend, if you want to see a classic example of how you don't need necessarily 1,000 people in a cast to put off an amazing performance or film. Everyone in this movie holds everything down. Paul Dano is an older brother of Abigail Breslin, plays it to perfection. Abigail Breslin steals everything she's in, very deliverable. Alan Arkin holds everyone together. Greg Kinnear does a great job in his role. This is an example of how everyone in this cast has and brings their talents to this project. Steve Carell, I mean, you can't say enough about any of these people. Now, that being said, Alan Arkin was also in another film prior to that called Slums of Beverly Hills with Natasha Lyonne, who you guys probably know now from her Rourke and maybe, I don't know, Little American Pie perhaps. But, I mean, honestly, Natasha Lyonne is very talented in her own right. She's been talented for many, many times before that. Alan Arkin played the patriarch, the father, a single father for that matter, as he had 3 kids that he was taking care of, his daughter and his 2 sons. This took place in the 60s, having to deal with conflict of family and how to raise these people. And it showed just his integrity as a father, his also very realistic approach to being a father. And as a father myself, I can actually relate to a lot of the things that he was going through and having to deal with. I mean, I'm lucky enough I have an awesome, tag team partner for life, being my wife, to help raise our kids. But Alan Arkin had to do this single-handedly, theoretically, by himself. His interactions with a brother who's kind of the, windbag, brother who kind of has everything that, the Alan doesn't. Alan Arkin's character having to go from one place to another, and just an amazing performance by Alan Arkin. Again, Slums of Beverly Hills. This is set in the 70s, or the 60s rather, and you got to remember it's a different time, and just what life looked like back then. Even back then, people struggled with trying to find their ways and trying to kind of make ends meet. And I think this film is something that's timeless, really, and things that people can adapt to. What's interesting is a lot of people who look at Little Miss Sunshine, the difference actually isn't a difference. Little Miss Sunshine features, a role about a girl who's going to be part of a beauty pageant, and maybe, is someone who, doesn't fit the trope for a lot of these people. And what this film did here, which is amazing, is kind of showed and highlighted how the world kind of looks at those kinds of things, those kinds of pageants, in a very different way, I guess you'd say, but also honest way. Now, on the flip side of that, Alan Arkin, who was also, Slums of Beverly Hills initially is also about, is a coming-of-age tale about Natasha Lyonne as a teenager struggling to find her way. How she kind of adapts and how she's trying to get used to, quote, again, Beverly Hills, get it? Aha. And she does a great job here, and I think one of the reasons why Natasha Lyonne is is as good as she is she's got great leadership under someone like Alan Arkin. So, anywho, speaking of Alan Arkin, some other things that he has done that you might not realize. He was in Dumbo, the live action Dumbo. He was in the Minions as Wild Knuckles. That was the guy who Alan Arkin in the Minions Rise of Gru. That was probably one of his last roles. Is his voice, which is also very, very distinguished and recognizable. And he is, in fact, an individual who, if you hear his voice, you know that Alan Arkin kind of lingo. He did the voice of Wild Knuckles, who, if you guys don't know, for Minions, not to spoil it too much, but he is a hero to young Gru, who would go on to become the despicable one we all know and love. And oddly enough, I wanted to say the comparison there. Now, Alan Arkin, who was in Wild Knuckles and whatnot, I want to point out that the kind of, there's always that 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. And in this case, as far as Little Miss Sunshine goes, Alan Arkin, who was the voice of Wild Knuckles, prior to that, he also would go on to work on the other with the voice actor, star of Gru, which was Steve Carell. He worked with Steve Carell on the movie that I just mentioned, Little Miss Sunshine. So you got that. So, interesting thing. Now, my wife, her favorite performance by Alan Arkin was really on Get Smart, the live-action film. And I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't even watch it yet. And again, who's in Get Smart? Oh, wait, it's Steve Carell again. Steve Carell plays Maxwell Smart, who was originally played by Don Adams, who, by the way, I used, being someone who grew up on Nickelodeon, I used to love watching Nick at Night. And honestly, Get Smart was a very comical before its time show. And I'm going to get cool points taken away from modern teenagers and so forth when I say that Get Smart was really, if 007 himself, that that whole series there, the James Bond series had more of the things that Maxwell Smart and Get Smart had, I'd probably be more interested in watching a lot more James Bond movies. But because Maxwell Smart, Don Adams, and the whole Get Smart thing was so enjoyable to me, it honestly, that's how I believe that should be done. And I don't really like this when you try to be so serious about something so cheesy. That's just me. By the way, they're doing Dominic Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes right now. Which is the next match here at Money in the Bank. Taking a break from my regular thing to let you know what's going on. And Cody Rhodes is in red, white, and blue. And now, granted, they're in England. And yeah, that might have the same color scheme in their flag, but hopefully he has to understand that he is the American Nightmare, and he's in the United Kingdom. So could have that impact there. But Dominic is super over as a heel, so I'm certain that it's easier to like than hate. But anyway, Get Smart, folks. If you ever get an opportunity to check out Get Smart, the original show, I do recommend you do so. The movie itself, my wife likes it. I haven't watched it yet, to be honest, but maybe someday. But I just think it's amazing how many things, when you really start counting down, how many things he's kind of worked, how many times he's worked with Steve Carell. Because that's 3 things now that I just mentioned that he has some tie to Steve Carell. However, he has no tie to Steve Carell in Grudge Match, which is with Robert De Niro and Sylvester Stallone. Great movie also. It's a boxing movie, for those people who don't know. He was also in Incredible Burt Wonderstone, which is about a famous magician. Guess who plays the lead? Yep, Steve Carell. Actually, another film that was really good in 2012 was called The Stand-Up Guys. He plays kind of a mafia guy, tough guy role, but also one of the kind of the Joe Pesci kind of the group. Really cool there. The fact that when you know you're over is when you're kind of put everywhere, and he is everywhere. Alan Arkin is you put him in anything, and looking at his resume, he did do just about everything. It didn't look like he said no a lot, but it also looks like all these films that he's been part of have been phenomenally received by a lot of people, and a lot of these are big things, and you can't take those things away. One of my early he was also in Jacob's Ladder, too. The original Jacob's Ladder. He was in that as well. I mean, how many other awesome things? You know, of course, I remember him, one of my first introductions to Alan Arkin. He was in... Well, I have two introductions to Alan Arkin. One was in North, a very small role in North, as he is the judge who gave North the ability to get new parents. But I also remember him in a movie called Poppy, which he was phenomenal in that. But some people might know him from Edward Scissorhands as the father, who is the husband of Diane Weist's character, who is another underrated actress. But I got to tell you about another film that I've never really got to review on this show, which I think is one of the best movies ever when it comes to telling stories about brothers. And of course, that movie is called Coupe de Ville. All right, so Coupe de Ville, I'm going to bring you guys this speed on. Coupe de Ville is a film about three brothers who are, now adults, who all throughout their lives, they're always kind of at each other's throats, as brothers tend to do. Anyone who's ever had a younger sibling or more than one can probably relate. The eldest of the brothers is Daniel Stern. You guys know Daniel Stern probably better as Marv, as the Wet Bandits from Home Alone. Or maybe you know him as the voice of Kevin Arnold from The Wonder Years, or maybe you know him from his role in City Slickers, perhaps. But Daniel Stern, who is the eldest of these brothers, his youngest brother is played by Patrick Dempsey, who is one of the young actors out of the time period of the 80s who kind of doesn't seem to age. Even still, Patrick Dempsey doesn't seem to age. He's kind of like quite an interesting individual is Patrick Dempsey. He's one of those people like Rob Lowe who doesn't seem to get aged. Very interesting individual. In this role, he's the youngest of the three. The middle brother, hold on, let me find out who the middle brother is for you guys. Because anyone who's ever been part of a brotherhood or a familyhood, you kind of understand how these things kind of work. Again, if you have more than one sibling, you definitely can understand and relate. As I mentioned before, I am the eldest. I'm the oldest of four myself. I have three younger siblings, so I can relate also. But they only had two, and I have one sister, which, to be honest with you, I don't associate with. But that's as a personal thing and whatnot. Again, sometimes, folks, you have to associate yourself around people you either one should be around or want to be around, and you want to keep your family around. Sometimes you need to distance yourself away from others who are not as positive. So that's my explanation there. Not that you asked for it. But I want to tell you about Coupe de Ville. Because it's a fantastic film. Hold on. Again, when it comes to brotherhood, it's a great film. Anyone, again, who has had such things can relate to that. So let me tell you about Coupe de Ville. Again, it's a little bit old, the movie. And also, I should forewarn you, it is a little bit of a hard movie to find. Why, I don't know. It is a fantastic film. Alan Arkin, by the way, spoiler, is the father of these three brothers. He is the one who contacts each of the brothers individually, and then he has each of these brothers. The idea is Alan Arkin gives his sons this job of picking up a car that he had gotten for his wife for her anniversary and dropping it off for her in Florida. The brothers, who again haven't been around each other for many years, all part of different kind of background, all of them have different kind of who they are, what they're about, and whatnot. They all have different lives. Like Daniel Stern, for example, the eldest of the brothers, is a Marine. That's his character is a Marine, Daniel Stern. He plays Marv. Isn't that funny that Daniel Stern plays Marvin, the eldest of the brothers in this movie, but also he would play Marv in Home Alone of the Wet Bandits. Interesting how that goes. Ira Gross plays Buddy, who is the middle brother, and Patrick Dempsey, as I mentioned, plays Bobby, the youngest of the brothers, who doesn't seem to age at all, Patrick Dempsey, somehow. I think Patrick Dempsey is still doing things. I think Daniel Stern works on things like behind the scenes now. But these are the three brothers we follow for the most part, and then they have to basically reassemble, so to speak, and get to know each other, as it's been so long since these brothers have been together. And as you can see, and as you can tell, and anyone who's had brothers, you have that sibling rivalry. Sometimes, having brothers, a good way to be is to have a good knockdown drag out, and then you shake hands after the fact and it's over and done with. But the other thing about it is, as much as you can, fight against your brothers and get into these arguments with your brothers, when push comes to shove, I'm going to tell you one of my favorite scenes and parts of Coupe de Ville, because it speaks to exactly what a brother does in the brother code. So, again, Daniel Stern is the eldest of the brothers, and they're on their way to bring this car back to their mother in Florida, that the father, played by Alan Arkin, had them do. Buddy, who is the middle brother, he is played by Eric Gross. He has this girlfriend, I guess, that he has a romantic involvement with, and he expresses how much he likes her, but she has a new man in her life, and apparently he's a jealous type, and he's a big guy, and he's like this is the boyfriend that she now has, that she's moved on from Buddy with, is someone who is the epitome of what a bully is. He's a bigger guy. He uses his power. He goes to the gym. He works out. Well, there's this. It's an older movie. This movie, by the way, was made in 1990, so many years ago, 1990. So the middle brother, by the way, Cody Rhodes beat Dominic Mysterio, surprise, surprise, to no one. That's exactly what we had on our roster. We did too. But anyway. Thought I'd throw that in there, just in the middle of it. So Alan Arkin, who, again, has Daniel Stern and Buddy, who plays, again, Marv is the eldest, the Marine. He has to go pick up his brothers. I think he's a Marine. He's a Marine or a Navy, one of the two. And then he has to get his two brothers, his younger brothers. So Buddy, the middle brother, who's kind of a weakling, he's portrayed as. He's kind of the one who's always getting sick, which is a trope with the middle brother syndrome type of thing, where it's either the older brother who all the pressure's on to do the right thing and set the example, or the youngest brother who is going to be protected by the parents and you're going to be blamed for anything they do wrong, kind of an idea there. The middle brother, or the middle sibling, is always the one who sometimes usually gets the complex, because they kind of feel like a third wheel. It's a kind of a psychological term, and this has been examined in many different other projects, films, and whatnot. For example, the Brady Bunch did this with Jan Brady, who was feeling like the middle daughter annoyance between Marcia and Cindy. That's one of the best examples of a middle child complex, as they call it. Well, Buddy is just always, sick or annoyed or kind of presented as weak. And of course, he is also the romantic, sensitive one. So he has this girlfriend, and they have a nice moment where they get to reunite, so to speak, much to the dismay of the boyfriend, who kind of beats up the brother pretty bad. And he gets home, the brother, and Patrick Dempsey, who is the youngest of the three, and he's kind of the firecracker, he's the troublemaker, he's the rough kid, he's the rebel without a cause, so to speak. He wants his older brother and him to go over there and beat the crap out of this other guy. How dare him do this to our middle brother? And he's the hothead. And Daniel Stern says, no, we're not going to do that right now. You just go down and lay down. We'll deal with this later. And Patrick Dempsey, who what's interesting is they cut away from that. And so, Daniel Stern puts Buddy, to bed, so to speak, to make sure he's feeling better. So, Bob, Robert, as they call him, in this movie, he's contending to Buddy as Daniel Stern's Marv tends to go over to the house, and the guy who beat his brother up goes to the door, and then he just absolutely annihilates this guy. Just gives him the old pulls all that background and just beats this bully up, really, because of how badly the guy beat up his brother. And again, as a big brother, you tend to be protective of your family. Always going to be protective of your family. You're not going to be someone who is going to... You're not going to be someone who's going to be... You're not going to be someone who's going to let anyone else mess with your siblings when you're the eldest of the brothers. As much as you might, not like or get along with your brothers, when it comes to your own siblings, your own blood, no one messes with them but you. And that's when, as the eldest, you are put in that predicament where what do I do in the best to handle the situation? Do I fight, or do I ignore and turn the other cheek, so to speak? Well, depends on who you are. I'm someone who, takes liberties with bullies. I don't like bullies of any kind. And if someone was to mess with anybody I care about, and I know that they can't do something about it themselves, then you better believe that I will be the one to deal with that myself, because I'm not going to sit down and watch something wrong go on. That's just not how I am, nor will I be. Facts. That being said, so Daniel Stern goes over to this house, to the guy, who goes to the door, and Daniel Stern just absolutely destroys this guy. Beats him up, leaves him in a heap in front of the house, and says, "You ever touch my brother again, I will destroy you." Actually, I cleaned that up a lot. I can't tell you exactly what he said because, again, this is a family show. But again, I can relate to that. I understand it tremendously. Cut back to the house later. So Daniel Stern's already destroyed this other guy. Now, mind you, the other guy really didn't do anything to Daniel Stern. There was no kind of warning that Daniel Stern was just going to annihilate him. He actually punched him through the screen door. And then from there, it was just a knockdown, drag out. The guy really didn't have a chance. Some people call it a sucker punch, but he just went ahead and destroyed what these people are and this guy. This would come back later when they come to find out that, but what's funny is the youngest brother, when Daniel Stern gets back to the house and he's getting ready for bed, the youngest brother went over to Daniel Stern and he goes, I can't believe, because, again, the younger brother and the oldest brother are always at wits, because that's generally how it is, by the way, in most families. The younger brother generally either is constantly compared to his older brother, and there's some resentment there, or they're trying to fight with the older brother. That's just how it works, unfortunately. But he tells... And also, when you're the eldest, you tend to be like the second father kind of a deal, too. You kind of look after your younger sibling. That's kind of how it works. And Robert doesn't like that, really. So, anyway, that being said, when Daniel Stern's Marv is getting ready for bed, so to speak, he's brushing his teeth. when Patrick Dempsey walks over to him and says, Marv, I always knew you were a tight guy and you were tough, but I can't believe that you would allow someone to beat up our brother like that and not do anything about it. I'm ashamed of being your brother. Meanwhile, he didn't know that his brother already went over and took care of the situation, so to speak. And that's why, at the conclusion of that scene, it's Daniel Stern with a smile on his face, knowing that, he thinks I didn't do anything, but I actually did, and I don't need the acknowledgement for doing so. Of course, he would find out that is something he would find out about. And that is something that would happen. So, and then they'd have to deal with this bully and some others as time went on. So, there's that. But yeah, anyway, Coupe de Ville, Alan Arkin, patriarch of that family, another great performance. And again, not that anyone would listen who is associated with Alan Arkin, but anyone who listens to this, my thoughts, prayers, and our whatever goes out to the families of the family and the lineage of the great Alan Arkin, who steals a show in anything he is in, and he will greatly be missed in Hollywood, television, film, you name it. But his memory will live on with us forever. So, heroes remembered, but legends never die. Kudos to the great Alan Arkin. All right, folks. So now we got some good things to say. Some good things to announce, finally. First and foremost, I wanted to, again, let people know that Hellman Elementary, the book series, we had author Richard Bourne on the show before. And as those people don't know, I was heavily involved in the early developments of that project. I want to let people know that the project has filmed successfully, but they still need a little bit more help. So, anyone who's listening who has the means and would like to be part of this project, part of history, to take a stand for art and for these amazingly talented people. I can tell you this, they had the most amazing cast, crew that you'll ever meet. I know the cast is phenomenal because I helped put that together along with Richard. I believe in Richard's film project. I believe in his television project. I believe in the talented people behind him. So on Instagram, I had put out a thing for people to take part in. So please, if you can help the Hellman Elementary School project, please feel free to visit my Instagram at F4L Icon Sean Jazz Stevens 1. Or go to Hellman Elementary on Instagram and find the Venmo. So you can be part of television history. Become part of the icon. Be part of the movement that is art. Be part of something to say that you took a part and took a stand and are responsible to helping this amazing project become part of the Netflix lineup. Because I believe in these people. I believe in this project. And I do recommend you guys go help them out. So thank you for that, and best of luck to the Hellman Elementary School team. Again, you can find out more information by checking out Hellman Elementary on Instagram and reaching out to them and see how you can help become part of the project, producer, creator, whatever, and then some. Thank you, and again, help them out when you can. School is out of session. All right, so last but certainly not least, allow me to, we have some announcements to make finally, which is exciting. Calm down, relax. Okay, cool. So folks, we have a few announcements to make. Some very exciting ones. First and foremost, let's talk about tomorrow's guest. The very talented, rising musician, the great a very, very fantastic, talented young man, is going to be having his first visit here to the F-World Headquarters podcast. And those people who watch the show, or listen to this podcast, know that I am all about helping others introduce them more to the world that maybe don't know them yet. This young man has music videos here on YouTube. I highly recommend you check out Gabriel Cejas as he makes his first appearance here on the F-World Headquarters podcast tomorrow. I announced this earlier this week, and I also announced this on Instagram. Gabriel is a tremendous young man who has got a very bright musical background and a bright musical future, in my opinion. Has a very Hispanic sound to a lot of his music, but he also has a lot of great pop hits, very variety of great hits that he's already put together, from Stand By Me to Hallelujah to Yellow, which is a fantastic fantastic song, and several other great hits, and he's going to be coming out with more as time goes on. Well, we're going to meet Gabriel for the first time tomorrow as we welcome him here and we get to know him a little bit more. And, whenever someone comes to the headquarters for the first time, I'm sure it's a nerve-wracking thing. It's always good to remember, just be yourself. If you're getting an invite to this headquarters, that means that you, one, have some type of moral to the F-World meanings, and that you may believe in the same things as the F-World. But also, if you're getting invitations, it's because I believe in your vision, I believe in your dreams and goals, and I want to see if I will help them. As someone who's dabbled all over everything from sports, entertainment, to wrestling, to you name it, I like to try to highlight these amazing people who sometimes people forget about or don't know yet. Well, Gabriel will be on here tomorrow. We look forward to meeting the young man. He's tremendously talented, great, very well-mannered. His dad's, I've had an interaction with his dad, William. He's nice. I always get along with great parents, great fellow dads especially. So, we look forward to welcoming Gabriel tomorrow right here on the F-World Headquarters podcast, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You'll get the audio, and then you'll get the video portion of it as well. So it'll be one of those occasions we have a little bit of both, which is exciting. Very epic. And it should be a lot of fun to welcome Gabriel. It should be a lot of fun. We look forward to it. And that's tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gabriel will be coming here for the first time ever. Probably going to get addicted like everyone else does to coming here. And make himself well at home, like so many others before. And this will be exciting, and it's always nice to welcome new friends to the F-World Headquarters podcast, where they can always come to be themselves. I can also tell you that we're in the works of bringing back some former guests who are also anxious to return to you guys and give you guys updates, as we have. It's interesting how so many amazing people have gone on to become even more epic since, which is exciting. And will continue to grow and become epic. So, there's that. So again, Gabriel Cejas joins us tomorrow live here at the F-World Headquarters podcast for the first time, and we look forward to it. So, that's kind of the show for me right here, and we look forward to having things. Oh wait, I have another announcement. So, last announcement is, for those people who are not aware, a number of years ago, many years ago, before social media, in the height of jazz fitness mania, I guess you'd say, on YouTube, I had auditioned for America's Got Talent a number of years ago. I know, right? How come I don't talk about that a lot? Well, I do talk about it here and there. It was a very interesting experience. But for those people who don't know, I actually auditioned for America's Got Talent for comedy, stand-up comedy, because Jazz Fitness himself is comedy. I am generally someone who most people get a laugh out of when I chat and talk, tell stories and whatnot. Now, to give a little background to that, when I did this was going back to the years when it was Sharon Osbourne, Howard Stern, and Howie Mandel. Howie Mandel at that point was the longtime person who was the judge people knew on America's Got Talent. This is before Simon Cowell came here, and there was no one else. It was just
Howie, Howard Stern, and Sharon Osbourne. A comedian, a musician's wife, and a radio disc jockey. Now here's the thing, which is interesting. Here's the fun part. Howie Mandel, the comedian out of Canada, he actually believes Howie Mandel, the comedian, who was the judge and the longest running judge on America's Got Talent, he actually thought I was funny in delivery. He thought I was amusing at how I told stories, because I basically just told them what my adventure was just getting there. Not actually putting in the fact that it was any kind of anything else. Other than, it was just, they asked me how I was and, what was like getting there, and I was telling them, and they were dying, and then I said, well, now that that's over, I can tell you my audition. I said, oh no, that wasn't my audition. That was my everyday sitcom of life, because that's the truth about a lot of how my days go. My days are full of random things that happen, and how I tell stories tends to be very animated and energetic in nature. So that being said, it's why it's amusing to the fact that Howie Mandel, the comedian, believed in the comical part of things and enjoyed that aspect and was ready to put me through. Howard Stern and Sharon Osbourne said that I probably should get a little bit more experience being a stand-up comic. It's different than cutting a promo in a ring, as they said. Even though they both knew what that was. They said I was too new to comedy at that point, and that I probably wouldn't last to the end. Howie Mandel, the one comedian, said, no, he's funny now, and I think he'd win this whole thing. But needless to say, 2 out of 3 of the judges didn't feel that I was ready yet, because I was too new, quote, to comedy. Well, get this, folks. I have found a place that I am going to be doing stand-up comedy. That's right. I am returning to stand-up comedy to show that not only did I have it then, I've always had the comedic chops. So, just so people know, Tuesday nights, starting probably after the 4th, I will be making my weekly home at the ESCO in downtown Providence, Rhode Island. That's ASKOW. ESCO. Hold on one second, let me tell you again. Because it is my new place. Those people heard my review last week about getting to hang out with a longtime friend, Elliot Fulham, and getting to see the little punk rocker perform his music on stage at the same club in which I will be doing comedy on. Yeah, SQ it's called, and it's in downtown Providence, the Esco Bar and Lounge. For those people who don't know, I don't drink alcohol, nor do I smoke or do drugs. So this is going to be one of the rarest of all comedy shows, as I'm someone who doesn't need drugs and alcohol to tell funny stories or whatnot. And actually, I'm probably the most dangerous person to be a comedian, because I remember everything. And because I'm Irish in nature, I am the life of the party. As my wife and kids say, I don't need alcohol to make a fool of myself in public. And I'm going to prove that as I'm going to be doing stand-up comedy at the ESCO Bar and Lounge starting on Tuesday nights right after this 4th. So if you want to hear me do stand-up comedy, you want to go down to the ESCO Bar and Lounge in downtown Providence, and you get to hear my stand-up comedy as I make my claim and take back the stage that I didn't have before. So stand back for that and get ready for more of that action. And if people wonder, well, what is that show going to consist of? Well, I have plenty of tales to tell. Everything from my film stories, background stories, my family, my background, where I'm from, the accent, the fact that any parent knows that kids are full of comedy in their own right. So that should be fun, as well as numerous other things. So, very exciting stuff. I am very looking forward to taking the stage and reclaiming it for stand-up comedy, and I look forward to it. By the way, for future musicians who are listening to the show, if you're looking to get a more of an audience or more of a landscape, I guess you'd say, a playing ground, get some more eyeballs, the ESCO also has open mic night for musicians and bands on Mondays, so people know. So Mondays at the ESCO Bar and Lounge, you can go do open mic music. And on Tuesdays, I will be taking and doing the open mic stand-up comedy with a bunch of other fellow local comedians. It should be epic and fun. So make sure, if you're in the area, you check out the stand-up comedy by the F-Roll icon himself, because there is no show better than mine. So, folks, with that, because we have our show tomorrow, I don't want to give you guys too much overwhelmingness of epicness proportion. But what I will say is this. We'll see you guys here tomorrow, 2 p.m., with our very special guest, Gabriel Sahace, making his first appearance here at the F4L Headquarters podcast. And also for those folks who like the icons of the F4L, make sure you tune in to the F4L Headquarters, to this YouTube channel, as we're going to find out who is better, us or them. And we'll also have our show on the 4th, our regularly scheduled 4th show, Icons of the F4L, Scars and Straps, taking place in our all-new arena with the greatest shows on Earth, with the greatest roster on the planet. Anyway, folks, some highlights of that show. We have a tremendous main event as the challenger, Big E, Elijah Fulham, cashing in his case of fate, making it known. In fact, we're going to have a new case of fate holder starting tomorrow as well. But in general, we're going to have the former case of fate holder challenging the current champion, JoJo, the bodybuilder, defending the Dream Masters Universal Championship against the newcomer, Big E, Elijah Fulham, tomorrow night. And it's not just anything, because we have the best and the toughest. This is under Iron Man rules. That should be epic. So that should be cool and exciting. Also tomorrow, the Dream Masters Universal Tag Team titles are on the line as the Brooks Brothers defend against whomever chooses to step up to the plate. In addition to that, all kinds of other fun shenanigans to be had. As for now, I am the F4L icon, Sean Jazz Stevens, saying, may all your dreams come true. Peace, everybody. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, guys. May all your dreams come true. Good night, everybody.